Morning.
Good morning.
This is Linda. Hi, Linda.
Hello.
So Linda here, you live pretty local,
Mm-hmm.
right? Chatsworth, you're about 3-4 miles away.
Yes.
So you're one of the few who are actually local to me. Most people are out of state or out of the country, but Linda's local, so she's actually here in the office with me. And Linda, you were diagnosed with Hashimotos.
Yes.
How long ago?
I was diagnosed last November.
Last November.
But had been suffering from symptoms. I've been on thyroid medicine for probably about 8 years.
Okay. And so you were having symptoms for at least 8 years prior.
Yes.
And then during these 8 years, were they getting better, staying the same, getting worse?
They were just, for a long time they were just kind of staying, and then they just got a lot worse, and particularly towards the end of my tenure with my work, it just really got to the point, I was in law enforcement, and it got to the point where I just really couldn't function on the job, so I was eligible for retirement, but not mandatory, but I took my earlier retirement.
Wow.
So I could
Get better.
get better. Mm-hmm.
So your condition actually kind of forced you into an early retirement.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're going to get back to that in a minute.
Okay.
So what kind of symptoms did you have that were impairing your job, impairing your daily life?
I just was absolutely fatigued. I couldn't,
energy at all.
no energy. I couldn't walk up the stairs without getting shortness of breath. I was also going through a menopause where I had extremely heavy bleeding, and the doctors were just kind of throwing meds and stuff at me, and had me on the bioidentical progesterone, which helped to stop the bleeding. Eventually, when I went to a different doctor, we were able to manage it, and I went through menopause, and I didn't have to have a hysterectomy. But the doctors were all equating the fatigue with the bleeding, but didn't. But after the bleeding was over, I was still really fatigued.
Still fatigued, yeah.
So so I excuse me, and I had been to several doctors. One of my original general practitioner, I told that I thought that I had hypothyroid symptoms, and was kind of poo-pooed on it. Because it said it was with my TSH was within normal, and so I eventually went out of my HMO and went to paid out of pocket to go to a specialist who did my THS, and it was like 6.99 at that point, and so he put me excuse me so he put me on the thyroid and for the hypothyroid, and also to address the T4 and some other stuff, and I was feeling better at that time. And by that time I just that's around the time I retired and went back to my regular doctor so my insurance would pay for it, and just kind of was going on the same pattern that I was on
Before.
the Synthroid, but it wasn't doing anything.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So you've also had brain fog, got some brain fog.
Brain
from
fog.
that, and a little bit of sleeping issues.
Yes, and couldn't lose any weight, and
weight,
just so.
And some joint tenderness.
Yes,
too.
and joint issues.
You kind of had a whole slew of typical Hashimoto's type symptoms, and been to several doctors in the past who could help you. And so you kind of stumbled across me through the internet.
Yes.
And we concurred that you had Hashimoto's, but we had a different kind of protocol. So we started with you, and then you started with me around towards the third week of January. And so we're early April now, so we're about two and a half months into it or so. Okay. How much better are you now?
Probably 70 or 80% better. So I have a lot more energy. I have 3 horses, and I wasn't. I was having to parse out, how much time I could spend with them and work with them, and now I'm able to do all 3 and and not crawl home. And
awesome.
So I also have another issue too, that I was in a car accident about 3 years ago, and it was a head-on collision, and I was, my ankle was really mangled.
Right.
So that's been a process too of recovering from that. I had just in October had metal removed from my ankle, so I'm recuperating from that too. And I don't know if the metal kind of exacerbated things too, but
sure.
So anyway, so it's a process. There's light at the end of the tunnel. I'm feeling so much better.
Yeah.
And
so let me ask you this: if this were, if how you feel right now were before you retired, would you have retired?
No.
You would have kept on going. You felt like you have the energy to. So it's really too bad that we didn't hook up before that, because you might have still been in your career at this point.
Yeah, well, I'd have to retire this year, but
but it would have been nice to do it by choice rather than by force. Wow, good for you. Good for you. So if people are always watching these kinds of things, and they're seeing similarities, what would you tell them? What's the one piece of advice you would give them if they're watching this, contemplating whether or not to work with me?
Well, take the plunge, because if nothing else is working, I mean, it's like if you're just treating the symptoms and not going to the root of the problem, then you're just putting like a Band-Aid over an infection, and it's not really not gonna work. So you just have to dig deeper and be your own advocate. Not necessarily listen to your doctors, your regular doctors, and they may mean well, but you have to look at what they're, where they're coming from, their worldview, and what they've been trained, and it just, to be perfectly honest, I think I know more about medicine and health from my horses and dealing with the veterinarians, because they seem to be a little more holistic than most Western doctors. So you just kind of got to be your own advocate, and just it's okay to question. So
great, good for you. Congratulations.
Okay, thank you.